Okay, in the last tutorial I got a bunch of questions about camera tilt and some suggestions to do some tutorial on backwards flying, so we're going to talk about those two things today. For tilt, I use about that much. I don't know, I've never measured it with like a protractor or a compass or anything. I think it's like somewhere between 20 and 30, 25-ish. Hey, Stan's here, my buddy Stan! I'm talking to the video here, we're doing a tutorial. It's too fucking loud under here though, it's noisy. You got this loud ass truck, he's got music. Really you can fly with whatever tilt you want because obviously Matty Stunts just cranks it like straight up to 90 and he kills it. Or there's people that use even less than me, like no tilt. You can use whatever you want, but depending on what you want to do, if you want to fly really tight space and you know proximity, you're probably going to want to fly low tilt. Plus, the lower the tilt you use, the more natural your controls are going to be because your quad's actually doing what you're seeing. So it's less cross-coordinating and everything on your inputs. So if you want to fly like Jaboy Vortex, fly with enough tilt that you could stop and hover and just stare at something and not be moving at all. Which is going to transition me on to today's trick portion of the video because since I use low tilt, I have a different style of backwards flying than like Matty Stunts does. What he does is really upside down and backwards. He's flying through the air like this. I literally just go backwards, and instead of looking at where I'm going upside down, I'm not looking where I'm going. I just know that it's an open, clear path, and I'm looking where I'm going away from. Or I look up at a ceiling or something and use that as a reference to go back. With Matty Stunts, if you have a ton of angle, you can almost be like...
That's how he does it, tons of angle?
He uses a lot of angle so that he can almost have some kind of lift, but he's like looking at what he's doing.
Yeah,
but he's seeing it upside down. You can almost still be pushing, you know what I mean? Pushing like that, and then you only have to go forward just a little bit to regain some power. So he's able to like look up this way and curve around. And then curve around. He can like maintain this
funnels and stuff.
Yeah, but if you fly low tilt, you're not going to be able to do that. So we're not talking about that style today.
Tilty.
We're talking about low tilt style. So flatten that down. So the first step to practicing that is just get into a hover or go up to something, hover it, and then tilt back and just use a little bit higher reference point. So if it's a tree, just kind of look towards the top of the tree and then let yourself float back a little bit. You can even just give it a little punch and then pitch forward. So let's do a little bit of that. Step one, hover and then just slight backwards movements. And once you get that, that's a fundamental that you can use in a bunch of different things. So maybe we'll get into that too. So let's do that part. Let's do it. So here's the trick. Go up to something and then you stop. This is what you need to be able to do. Just hover. And then look up at it a little bit higher. And look, I'm going backwards! Very simple. Go up to it, come up like this, punch it. Boom. And then go in between something. Then you can use the roof as a line to keep going straight. So I'm going to look straight up at the roof, follow that center line, and boom. So I'm using where I was to navigate instead of where I'm headed to. You also have to consider your altitude on these too, so don't get too distracted at looking at your reference point for guidance. Think about whether your reference point is getting further away or closer to you. That's how you manage your altitude. So instead of looking at the ground and knowing how far off the ground you are, you look at the roof or the ceiling and you gauge how far away from that you are. Alright, I think that's a simple enough concept to understand. Flying, get into a hover, you tilt it backwards, and then you're going backwards a little bit. The first technique we'll work on, or trick, it's not really a trick, I wouldn't say, but the first thing we're going to do is a backwards turn. The easiest way to get into it, let's say if you're going to do a turn to your left, a normal turn, both sticks would be coordinated together going to the left at the same time. To go into a backwards turn, do the yaw only, and it'll yaw you the right way, but it'll kind of roll you away from the turn. And then once you've tilted sort of the wrong way, you push forward on the pitch and that'll pull you through backwards. So I'll show you that one now. Alright, so here's a regular left-hand turn, both sticks to the left. You pull around the turn. Now here's how I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to yaw left, that takes me out of it, push forward. And you can do it right. Do it right yaw, push forward. I'm going backwards. What usually will happen is all your momentum will get killed real quick because you're still tilted that way. But you can push it hard. Do it through objects. Let's see. Yaw, push forward. You turn this way. What really helps with the backwards turn is the fact that you have a reference to look at. It's almost like an orbit, but just going more backwards instead of kind of sideways around the turn. For my next trick, I don't even know what this trick is actually called. I guess you could call it like a reverse split S, or this is kind of what I think of when I think of a Matty flip. Most people think Matty flip is like the loop. I always kind of think it's this thing where it's kind of like a split S, but instead of flipping over and coming out, you roll upside down and then you push forward and you go backwards through the gap or whatever. So yeah, let's do this one. It's mainly just working on getting really good at doing a half roll and like catching it nice and flat, and then just practicing how much forward pitch and throttle you have to give it. That's all there really is to it. And then with the tilt, how the way that applies is if you have a lot of tilt, then you can do it from really far away because your quad has enough angle on it to carry you at a distance. If you have low tilt, you got to do it kind of quick and not from really far away. Alright, so let's do a couple of those unnamed tricks. If anybody has a name for this, let me know in the comments and I'll just start calling it that, because I don't know how else to get tricks named. Let me know if you know what this one's called. So let's work on that one. Step one, get those half rolls on point. So be able to catch it like that. The flatter you get it, the better it's going to be. Try one. You can just approach it really slow. Do it while you're already in there. That's pretty easy, right? Come on. Try to do one with a little more distance. When you're going to be traveling a lot of distance, you're going to want to gradually pitch forward, because if you do it too soon, you won't be able to see where you're going and you'll lose your momentum. And then on this next example, this is when you need to do it really quickly because you're low, you don't have a lot of room. This is just a good example to show you two different styles, one gradual and long and one really quick. That's kind of cool, huh? Well, I guess last but not least would be the old, what most people would call the Matty flip, the backwards power loop. It's not really anything to go around under here. I could do it in between the pillars. There is like the perfect high Matty flip beam right next door. There is that. I just feel a little sketched out, like I don't really fully trust all my quads right now, but if I'm feeling ballsy, we'll hit that. On these ones, it definitely does make it a lot easier if you run more tilt, because obviously you can keep it in view more and still have more thrust keeping you up. It's a little harder with low tilt, but it's doable. You just have to do things kind of higher up. Like the one that's sketchy would be a perfect one. I might just have to try that. I don't know, that's the trade-off. Like I would probably never be able to do those like weaving in between the tree backwards things like Matty does, but the trade-off is I can hover. just stay still and have a good looking frame in front of me. My thing about the tilt, why I don't like too much tilt, is I have this pet peeve about when someone has too much tilt on their GoPro and you're like looking up. Just if you pictured yourself with a camera and you're tilting it up all the time, the sky is not as interesting as the ground, and it makes it look like you're going even slower than you really are going. So that's why I like low tilt. You can go slower, but it'll look like you're going fast. I actually kind of picked that up from Jaboy Stingy. All right, last one, Matty flips, Matty loops, whatever you want to call it. Let me know in the comments what this one's called. Okay, let's try it over here first. Trick is not having too much forward speed. Yeah, because if you're hauling ass, it's really hard to come back, but if you're just barely going, it's a lot easier. So you just, like, if there was a beam here, I would just barely nudge over it, just like that, and then already be, you know what I'm saying? Pretty sketchy. I just don't want to fail safe. So I just barely go over it, right? The main trick to the Matty flips is to not have too much forward momentum. You want to hug really tight to whatever you're doing the Matty flip around. So, I don't know, it's just easier if you don't go hauling ass at it. Okay kids, that's going to do it for Jaboy Vortex and number 2 in the trick series. That's going to do it. That's the end of the video. As always, any things I missed, ideas for the next one, leave the comments, let me know, and we'll see you on the next one.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Goodbye. First ever unboxing on Vortex channel. What did we get in the mail today?
Oh, I'm definitely unbox that, dude.
Unbox that. Oh, China Hobby line. China Hobby. Hobby. Unplug it.